You're listening to a Comics XF podcast.
X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your, how do I want to say it this time? This is your antagonist-free podcast where we rank every story from A to Z.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Zach, and this is an X-Men podcast. I didn't mention that earlier.
Well, we are villain-free this week, and, you know, it's difficult to have comics without villains, really.
So this is one thing that I find interesting, and it's that comics do need people to punch. They do need bad guys for your beat 'em ups. And these are action things. And while I love the character soap opera stuff, I like when the character soap opera stuff is them saying their feelings while like fighting demons in New York City, for example. Like there's a blend where it works really well. Or I don't know, confessing your true love while on the moon, having to fight a army of Legion of Superhero knockoffs while trying to control the evil bird that is inside of you. I think those are good feelings.
Yeah, no, I mean, that is kind of the core of what comics are all about. And that is what made this episode a little challenging. We got a really great challenge from a Patreon patron. And who is this that requested a villain-free story week?
This is from Patreon supporter Tales from the Mooseverse.
Oh, what is the Mooseverse?
I assume it is the closet where I keep all of my Christmas stuff.
Okay, that's
people
true.
on this podcast might not know that I have a lot of moose nativity scenes.
Yes, you do have a moose nativity.
It has the Messiah in it.
Love that.
My grandma got me mooses for Christmas ever since I was a kid, and there was a tradition in our family, at least for my mom's generation, that when you got married, the aunts would go in on a gift and get a nativity scene for your house, and that was a nice, sweet thing. So my grandmother did that for my wife, and that's our normal one. And then she said, but also I found this, and I have to imagine that the handcrafted moose nativity scene was not that expensive.
It's ingenious, and I'm glad it's in your life, you know. But none of the stories we're talking about this week have mooses in them.
Nor meese.
No. Mises to pieces. We are going to start with a decidedly villain-free episode of Dazzler. This is a double-sized issue, Dazzler 21, where Dazzler plays Carnegie Hall.
I'm not from New York, so I don't know anything about these places.
Well, Zach, do you know how to get to Carnegie Hall?
I do not.
Practice.
So is that like a cab service or
that is like one of the oldest jokes in the history of man. Wait, we didn't tell people how to be patrons.
Shoot, we forgot. I got distracted by my moose stuff. If you want me to afford some more moose Christmas decor, you can go over to patreon.com/Battle of the Atom. Reach deep down into your hearts and pocketbooks and toss a couple of coins into our coffers. It really helps. And as a reward, at the $5 a month level, we'll do the show.
That's right.
I haven't looked in a bit. I'm not sure we have more than the $5 a month level. I think we've just been riding on the 5 for a while because, maybe we could upcharge it. But I like the simplicity. $5.
I mean, X-Men 1 just came out. It was $6. So we're a deal. We're a steal.
This is mean. I'm going to say that this episode of this podcast is going to spark more joy. Than Jed McKay and Ryan Stegman's X-Men 1.
Wow. See, I liked it. I just thought it was fine, you know, but
I do not think that it would rank highly on this list.
Okay. All right.
As a standalone X-Men story,
let's give it like a year and then somebody can request it. You know what I mean? And then we can put it on the list and talk about it.
$5 and then you get this content. Thank you, Adam. That's right. We monetize these thoughts.
Boom. Boom.
Thank you
boom,
so
boom.
much. You don't give it away for free. He says on the podcast that you can download for free everywhere. Carnegie Hall. Let's talk about it.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Do you know what I was excited about in this series?
I mean, there's so much to be excited about. What was in particular for you?
Ken's back, baby!
Yes.
Everyone loves Ken Barnett, Dazzler's lawyer boyfriend, who she's cheating on during this, and I felt so bad for my man Ken.
Ken really thinks that he is the one and, only for Allison, and Allison is totally hooking up with Angel on the side, and man, that's not cool.
Listen, I believe this behavior from Allie Blair. Like, it just, I get it. Angel's built. He's
a hunk.
hot. Everyone loves him. And Ken, he's just this ginger lawyer with a mustache who's, frankly, Ken's a lot of things. One of the things he is definitely too old for Dazzler. It's just weird that she has a boyfriend who is 50.
With Ronald McDonald hair? Yeah.
He's the wildest man. Ken Barnett Esquire.
Listen, Ken comes through in the clutch all the time in Dazzler until he stops appearing. But
that's when they break up.
Yeah, it makes much more sense for her to be with Angel, as they are both mutant superheroes.
And more than that, Angel does not have a book.
So this issue is coming to a couple of different culminating points in story where Dazzler's dad seems to have become catatonic in an armchair because he doesn't want to tell Dazzler the secret terrible origin of her mother, who has not appeared until recently in this book. And then we're also getting the mom has been discovered, not by Allison, but by Allison's friend. And so all of this is coming to a head. We're getting the backstory of how Allison's mother walked out on her in her pursuits of fame and glory.
Much like the movie Coco. And much like the movie Coco, there's a little bit more. Have you not seen the movie Coco? I'm describing it.
I'm sorry. Now that I thought about it for more than 5 seconds, I understand where you're going with this. But when I started
that's exactly the plot of the movie Coco.
I was thinking about the young boy, and I'm like, I don't remember him walking out on anybody.
No.
Now I'm catching up. Yes, please continue.
I'm going to continue by saying that Danny Fingeroth and Frank Springer doing this comic, they make choices here. So Allison's dad is a lawyer, and he's getting through law school, which, by the way, maybe Ken is a bit of daddy issues in Allie's life.
That's maybe, potentially, sure.
Maybe she's working through some stuff, and love that for you, girl.
Both have mustaches.
That's the problem, is that Ken is just like the exact same model as her dad, right? He's a lawyer. He wears the same clothes, has the same look about him. He just has the different hair.
He's more supportive,
No, that's the thing about Ken. He's the nicest guy.
Yeah. Like, her dad is basically tortured by the fact that his wife left him to pursue fame and fortune.
Okay, because the comic just states this and doesn't editorialize on, wow, Allison Blair's dad, you kind of had a bad attitude about this whole situation, because he's going to law school. Allison's mom, Catherine, has been playing gigs, playing shows to support the family.
Yeah.
Going to clubs while Allison's a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And Carter, her dad's like, oh, I'm a lawyer now. Now you can just stay home and be a housewife. Isn't this what you always wanted?
And she's like, no, I'm a singer. I'm going to go keep singing. And he goes, no. Your place is in the kitchen. And it's like, oh, no wonder she left. Like,
but the comic then goes a step forward and say, yeah, but that was her act of hubris, because then, do you know what happened, Adam?
Well, then she got involved with what do they call it? What do they call these magic pills? Like, they have funny names for drugs in this particular
She
issue.
does a drug. I don't remember. I don't have the comic in front of me. This is all off the dome.
She sunk further and further into degradation with the quote-unquote love of her life.
She meets a guy. He gives her drugs. It becomes a whole thing. And then, oopsie daisy, she runs away with him, finds out that he is unfaithful, but she's pregnant. So Dazzler has a sister.
Yeah, this is where Dazzler finds out she has a sister. Well, she doesn't find out this issue, this particular issue, but she will. She will. Oh, I found it. I found it.
How do they describe these magic pills?
It's the happy powder. Mommy's just got to find her happy powder.
And listen,
yes, here it is.
Listen, we've all seen that Greg Land panel of Dazzler saying, "Hey, I'm Allie. Hey." So happy powder, it runs in the family, but
whew,
it's a rough one. And to their credit, okay, I'm going to say to their credit, but actually not to their credit. They at least do the bare minimum and give Dazzler's mom a POV on all this. Like, they say it from her side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do they make it as, oh, I made so many bad choices as a young woman, and I'm just too afraid to face these fears because I was not the mother that I needed to be, and I wasn't the good housewife. Like, there's a weird regressive quality to this 1982 comic where I get that we weren't like all the way past it, but in 82, we like, that was 30 years past Leave It to Beaver. We were at least like, feminism was like a known thing.
Well, and she's an independent woman. She's, gone into teaching. She's giving vocal lessons. It's not like she's not made sense of her life. But I think the issue is stressing that she wishes she did have a connection with her daughter. And so we get this opportunity here, which comes from a very sleazy guy named Les, who wants to supposedly put on a charity concert, but he's really doing it so that he can take a cut of the profits. And leading up to this, the rehearsals go very poorly until we finally get the night of the concert. It's fun. There's a lot of superheroes in the audience.
Oh yeah, Dazzler is told to invite all of the superheroes she knows. And I've not read all of Dazzler on the way up to this, but does she know the Avengers?
I don't know, but we get the Avengers, we get the Fantastic Four. Daredevil gets out of his costume and comes as Matt Murdock.
Hey,
we get the champions.
Let's talk for a second, because they go to Dazzler's apartment for an after party later. Everyone's in their superhero suit except for Matt Murdock, who's just this other random redhead lawyer just hanging out with all these people. He's like, "Yeah, I'm blind. Oh, yeah, my stick kind of does look like Daredevil's stick. That's weird."
I do want to talk about the party for a second, but before we do, I want to dial back to Les, because we've talked about this with Dazzler the movie, but aside from just the weirdness of the backstory of her parents, there's still even more weird sexual harassment stuff in this book, because Les, as he's introducing this concept of the concert and leaving, he pinches Dazzler's butt, to which Dazzler's agent is basically like, "That's just part of the business, honey." So that's not great. And then later,
it's not wrong, but the comic like
excuses it.
Yeah, the comic is just stating a fact. They're not being like, "Hey, wow, actually, sexual harassment's a pretty bad thing."
Yeah, and then later, her
and
opening
I'm not saying
act,
comics have to moralize it, but it's friggin' weird.
Yeah,
like in the context of everything in this comic.
Yeah, and then later in her dressing room, a guy from the opening act comes in and offers her drugs. And so it's like, okay, we get it. Show business is tough.
He was just being polite. He was like,
right.
Allie, you want to do some happy powder with me?
So she does manage to get Dad out of the catatonic state so that he can tell his backstory. Her friend does invite the mother to come see the show, and Dazzler does meet her mother after performing her best show of all time on roller skates. I mean, she really does a great job with this show and sings this original song about being a little girl who just, wishes she could connect with her parents. And
terrible song. Honestly, the lyrics are
really
horrible.
bad lyrics. Yeah. And then, we get this party back at her apartment, which I don't know how they got into her apartment, but they're superheroes. And
Spider-Man can get into any apartment. He can just do it. It's a thing he can do.
This last page did have one of the funniest panels that I have seen in ages. Dazzler enters the room. Everyone says surprise. And she says, "Boy, you people have got some nerve throwing a party without onion dip." And then Iron Man, of all characters, turns to her and says, "It's in the fridge. I didn't want it to spoil."
Love it. All for it. Very excited by it. By the way, Dazzler did meet the Avengers in Avengers 221.
Oh, thank you for checking.
Which is that very famous cover where it says, "Who will be the newest members of the Avengers? Earth's mightiest heroes. Pick 2."
Oh, yeah. And Dazzler's one of them.
Dazzler's one of them. The answers are inside. The answer is Hawkeye and She-Hulk.
Not surprising.
Okay, but the rest of the characters on this cover, I just listen to this and tell me that they didn't pick the most boring options. Power Man, Spider-Man, Wolverine, Dazzler, Hawkeye, Rom, the Invisible Girl, who they do not draw in what is a very funny gag.
That's great.
That gag doesn't always work. It does work in this specific context. Daredevil, Ant-Man, Hulk, Doctor Strange, She-Hulk, Black Bolt, Spider-Woman, Silver Surfer. So they essentially put all of the Bendis Avengers on here.
I was going to say, that's all future lineup.
I just they could have put Rom on the Avengers.
Yeah, come on. Where's Optimus Prime? I did like this little footnote on the Marvel Wiki that noted that in the letters page of Dazzler 27, it is noted that the model on the cover, because the cover of this issue is a cosplay photo.
They did 3 photo covers that I can think of. I know there's a Spider-Woman one that Anna Senti is the model on. I know there is is it Peter Parker Spider-Man? One of the Spider-Man spin-offs.
There's a Captain America one too, isn't there?
Is there? I don't know.
Remember.
Every early.
And then there's that Doctor Strange cover where they used somebody's face and then got sued for it. But that's more of an illustration. But anyway, this model is apparently named June McDonald. And then Bob Larkin touched it up after Elliot Brown took the photo. But I think that's kind of cool. I don't know.
The photo cover, is the photo cover good? Not really.
No, it doesn't really. I think a much better cover would have noted that Dazzler is going to play Carnegie Hall in this issue. I think that's a more exciting thing to put on the cover. But
because it's all black and just a photo cover. And it says, "Revealed the shameful secret of Dazzler's past." Yeah. And I just want to say real quick, Dazzler didn't do anything in this.
No.
Nothing she did was shameful in this. She was like, "Yeah, my mom and dad split up. That was rough on me." That's not... Do you know how many hours of therapy I had to go to convincingly say that that's not a shameful thing, actually, people?
Yeah. I mean,
it's a whole...
I would even argue that the mom, she made some mistakes, but I mean, she did walk out on her child. But
listen, if we condemned every superhero who did that, well, then I don't think you would like the Jed McKay Ryan Stegman X-Men #1 very much based on the character. Would you, Adam? No,
that's true. All right. So why don't we take a stab at ranking Dazzler 21, Dazzler Goes to Carnegie Hall, on our big old list, Zach?
Oh, so here's the thing about our big old list, Adam, and I love it. It's that we're ranking every X-Men story from A to Z, and by that I mean best to worst.
Holy crow.
It all works out. We have 927 X-Men stories on this list. As we are on our road to 1,000, we're on that 1K road, baby.
Wow.
With the best story being the House of X Powers of 10. Probably never going to be beaten. Certainly not in the near future. Number 300 is X-Force, the road trip arc. Number 600 is Giant Size Fantastic Four, number 4, featuring Madrox, the Multiple Man. Number 900 is Extreme X-Men 36 and 39, Storm the Arena. And 927 is 2099, A World of Tomorrow. Where do we have other Dazzler stories on this list?
All right, so The arc that's right after this is the Sisterhood of Evil Mutants arc, which is oddly really important to the Rogue, Mystique, and Destiny storyline.
That's better than this.
It is better than this. It is at 522 on our list. I agree. This is not as good as the Sisterhood arc, but I do think we're probably in like the 500s. I'm looking down.
Okay, so at 592, we have the time that Dazzler did a jail fight.
That's also better.
Yeah. At 617, not that much farther below it. Adam, at 617, we have Dazzler Herald of Galactus.
Oh, that's better too. Okay, so we're in the 600s. Okay.
I'm not trying to I like your moxie here, but no. At 634, we have Dazzler 27 and 28 Vendetta.
That one's better too. Dang it.
Which
one
man.
That?
Oh, okay. That's the one with the Cabbage covers? Yeah, that one's better.
Yeah. That's where like she has the culminating fight with Rogue.
Rogue, yeah, that one's better.
Yeah.
Dazzler 38, where she fights the X-Men, is at 660. I think this is better than that.
This is better than that. Okay, so we are definitely in the 600s. I mean, this has some really fun kind of soap opera-y stuff to it. But you're right. I mean, it's not really that good, and it's probably not as good as Judgment War at 652.
It's probably not as good as Judgment War. I'm going to say it is not better than Uncanny X-Men 414 Fall Down Go Boom, which is the time that Chuck Austin has a kid be homophobic to North Star, and then North Star be sad that the kid died.
Yeah.
I mean, that story that's got some Jean Paul Leon art.
It does. Who will come back later in this issue.
Yeah.
I don't think this is as good as the first appearance of Wolverine at 657.
This is better than Cyclops Retribution, though.
Yeah. So what is this X-Men 109 Christmas issue?
109 would have been the issue that sets up Extreme X-Men.
Oh, right. It's Claremont.
With the Destiny Diaries.
All right. Your call. Better or worse than that? I mean, it's coin flip for me. I don't really care.
Worse than that, better than Cyclops Retribution.
Great. Okay. So Dazzler 21 is our new 659. And I will say that I was racking my brain for quite a long time to find other stories. And I was very happy to see, Zach, that you just messaged me and were like, we're doing this, because this next issue is one that I remember quite fondly from reading it as a kid.
This next issue is an issue I read once and never thought about again until like other people told me, oh, this one's really good. You should do it. Or you should think about this one more. And I was like, actually, going back to it, this is a good issue.
Yeah.
It's Uncanny X-Men 309, titled When the Tigers Come at Night.
This is Scott Lobdell and JR being inked by Dan Green, but there is at least one or two pages inked by John Holdridge, and you can definitely tell which one those are. Colors by Steve Buccellato. This one is notable.
Oh, it's a quote from Les Mis, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
From I Dreamed a Dream. I did not know that.
Oh, that's okay. I didn't either. Not a big Les Mis fan.
You're not a Les Mis person?
I have seen it. I saw it as a kid.
It's from I Dreamed a Dream. I Dreamed a Dream. You remember that one lady on American Idol that was like this older British lady that sang that song and then was famous?
Yeah, and then she was like, that wasn't American Idol though. That was the British version. And then she became famous, right? The heck was her name?
Fame-ish.
Well, like she sold a lot of records, She had the
Susan
voice.
Boyle. Susan Boyle.
That's who it was. Yeah.
Yes. It was Britain's Got Talent. Yes. Man, talk about early viral video.
Susan Boyle is not in this issue, but this is notable because this issue features what I feel like we could call a retcon, because it inserts a newer character into Silver Age continuity in a way that is really interesting, and I would argue pretty well done. And it made me a fan of this particular character for many, many years, and she's very underused, and that is Amelia Vogt.
Amelia Vogt. Just, You know that they wrote a trilogy of novels from her perspective once?
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, it's the Mutant Empire novels.
Oh,
That
she's the
Christopher Golden, who is like an actual like author.
yeah. He does a lot of the
Yeah, he
Hellboy stuff too, right?
He does. He's also good friends with Mike Mignola. Yes.
Yeah.
But he wrote those. I read them.
And she's the narrator.
Right. She is the point of view character for all the Acolyte stuff.
Oh, that's so cool.
Because it goes between Acolyte stuff, Shi'ar stuff, and then X-Men on Earth stuff.
Yeah. So we already know Voight as sort of this reluctant member of the Acolytes. But we are picking up this story in Uncanny 309. Xavier this is post Fatal Attractions. Xavier has wiped Magneto's mind clear. And now the entire issue is essentially him having an internal monologue with himself, but that other part of himself is Magneto.
Right.
And so it's these two kind of ghostly apparition versions of the two of them going back and forth and revisiting their history. It's pretty cool. I like the way it's done.
It's interesting because here's the thing. I think I've said this on this podcast before. I don't like it when Xavier is an out and out villain.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that was, and they're walking it back now, which I think is even more cowardly. But I think that was one of my issues with the end of the Krakoa stuff. Like, I got it, and I get that Xavier's not really a usable character in general, but I like it when he is a lot more ambiguous than being an out and out villain on things. And this is very much him having like internal strife about all of his girlfriends.
Yep.
His relationship with Magneto. And just kind of everything in his life. He's like, man, I screwed up a bit in my life, didn't I? And I understand this, Charles.
It's important to think about the visuals of this because it is JRJR. And we're used to him doing this sort of, this is, the era of blood and metal, big, bulky, boxy characters with guns that are basically just like lots of rectangles. And here it's a lot of like somber character work. So him and Dan are doing a lot of line work, a lot of dramatic shadows. And the way in which the issue is colored is primarily in like black and white and maybe 2 shades of blue. So it has this very ghostly quality. And then the flashbacks are in color. It's very, very cool. And it has like a very distinctive look to it.
It looks great. Mm-hmm. Like it is moody and emotional in a way you don't expect from JRJR.
Mm-hmm.
It is set after Xavier has gotten his legs crushed by Lucifer. We all think about Lucifer all the time.
Right.
The guy that was dressed just like Magneto that broke his legs. The alien man. And he is being cared for by another American in the hospital, and that's Amelia Voight. I think they're in India somewhere. And they form a relationship. She gets upset that he outs her as a mutant. He's like, wait, hold on. Also, I am a mutant too.
And we only get another notable thing about this issue is that it is told almost entirely, not entirely, but almost entirely in 2-page spreads of panels. Yes. So you get these vignettes that go from 2 pages to 2 pages to 2 pages as you continue to flip. And you can notice the passage of time of this relationship. And it's not that many pages, but it's very emotionally affecting because we get the 3 basic scenes that set up their relationship. But then Lobdell does something really interesting here where he's basically showing her walking out on him and Xavier kind of dancing around what really happened in that scene. And when he retells it at Magneto, other Xavier inside of his head.
Is the personification of his guilt for erasing his boyfriend's mind, which, by the way, these two have never been more in love than in
Oh,
this
yeah,
comic.
yeah, yeah. That's
It's
the big
like-
part of this.
It's like, it's hard to unsee. And I know that people are like, well, it wasn't written that way. Probably wasn't. But boy, do these two men just love each other a lot.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So as Amelia is leaving for the first time, you know, it's all about the ideas, right? You know, I can't buy into your ideas. You're starting to bring these Cyclops and
Children into
Jean.
the school.
I can't do this. Walks out. Then it becomes a little bit more heightened. But by the time you get to the third time to show what really happened, Xavier actually tries to use his powers to stop her. And it's like, oh, right. This is what Xavier is all about.
And he stops him. Here's the thing. He succumbs to it and then stops himself and is horrified about himself, which I think is a very key thing about Xavier, is that he is not a remorseless monster about this. He is a flawed person who makes a terrible mistake that breaks the trust of this woman that he loved and can't really be repaired. That damage is done and will forever have been done. And it forces you to sit with, hey, this is the leader of the X-Men. He's got his challenges.
Yeah, he's a very flawed character. And the other thing that is sort of bookending this is this idea that the reason he's having this heart-to-heart with himself, right, and with this Magneto self, is because Cyclops and Jean are about to get married, right? This is where we are at in continuity. And
so he thinks about all of his love interests, meaning her, Lilandra, Gabby Holler, Moira, and Magneto.
Yeah.
That's who did this, is everyone Xavier has ever loved.
So Xavier is, at the end of the issue, has this like very, you know, kind of touching scene with Jean where he's basically like saying, hey, I want you guys to be happy, because one of the things that he's questioning is whether he's allowed to be happy because of what he has done. And I think that makes the character so interesting and obviously terrible in the things that he does. But the fact that he has the regret, it really does make for a really interesting character portrait.
It makes him human.
Yep.
That's the thing. It gives him real emotions. And that's very, very cool. And I like it.
Yeah.
I think you get a lot of mileage out of Amelia Voight here. I think the biggest problem with her is that, like, if you were ever going to streamline this story, it's just you pick Moira and that's it.
Yeah.
Which is what they did in Ultimate X-Men. And it makes sense. It's you have her, you get rid of Gabby Haller, you get rid of Amelia Voight, and it's just Moira. Because this beat oddly repeats itself in very interesting ways with Xavier.
That I think is why it's additive, you know, like obviously
for
if you
30 years into the story, I agree.
Yeah. And I applaud this issue for doing something kind of different, you know, for taking a character that we have only known in modern continuity and then plugging them back into the backstory of that character is really interesting.
Hey, you ever think about how this story is as old to us now as X-Men #1 was to this story when it was released?
I try not to think about things like that. I think the other interesting thing here is that this also resolves a dangling plot point from X-Men Unlimited #1, which is
when he got lost in
that Xavier was saved by Magneto and brought to his like little Antarctic castle or whatever.
We've not covered it. We should find an excuse to cover that one.
Yeah.
That one's good.
Do a Chris Pachalo episode. But
no, we have to talk about our boy Chris.
I like this issue a lot, and I think we should try and rank it on our big old list.
That's true. I'm trying to think of where this would fall. Okay, here's an interesting one. At 113 is Early Frost.
Uh-huh.
I kind of think this is better than Early Frost. Like, it's of the same vintage, the same energy, and yet I think it hits a little bit better.
I do think that it's up there. I don't know if I would put it that high. but I think we're probably in like the top. Let's see, what's a 200? 200 is Survival of the Fittest from Generation X. Yeah,
I'm looking through this. Fatal Attractions is is Uncanny X-Men 304.
Uh-huh.
This is the weird thing about Scott Lobdell. Fatal Attractions, pretty good. I think we can all agree. Like, as single issues, pretty good. But then almost everything between Fatal Attractions and, like, this issue is bad.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's actually 308 to 310 is a good run because it's got the Christmas issue with it, or not the Christmas, Thanksgiving issue where they get engaged.
Yeah, that's a
which
good one.
Honestly was the first one I thought of when I was trying to pick things for this episode. And then I saw the Amelia Vogt one right next to it and said, actually, no, we'll do that. And then it's got the Executioner, Scott's Bachelor Party, which is good but not great. Then it's some trash comics. And then it's Early Frost. And I just Scott Lobdell is uneven, right?
Yeah. I mean, when he hits. Like, he does know how to actually do the emotional stuff when it comes right down to it in this era. It just depends on the issue, and where he's willing to go for it. So
honestly, Scott Lobdell could do a good single issue.
Sure.
His arcs are atrocious, but the single issues, okay.
Yeah. So I'm just looking down the list, but I think we're probably in the top 200.
We are. This is better than Survival of the Fittest.
Yeah. I'm just looking to see how high I would go. And
I would say, is this better or worse than X Factor 27 Gifts, that Christmas issue?
Yeah, like we're on that kind of a level. I don't think I would put this ahead of Ladies' Night at 144.
Okay, I can see that, especially with where you're at. I would say, Adam, I would say put it right below Ladies' Night, above the Jerry Duggan Forge in the Vault set of issues.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Because I think this is a more cohesive piece.
Yeah. All right. So
also, Xavier's got the same weird beard he had on Krakoa.
He does. The blonde
His little blonde beard.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's poor depressed Xavier. All right. So that's
Speaking of blonde beards.
Oh, speaking of blonde. Oh. Okay.
Emma Frost is on the cover of this next one.
All right, so we're going from Uncanny 309 to New X-Men 131. This is Grant Morrison, and interesting art combo here. We have John Paul Leon doing pencils and Bill Sienkiewicz doing inks.
Why do you think that's interesting? I'm curious.
Why do I think that's interesting?
I mean, besides the fact that you like those two guys.
I just think it's an interesting combination. I always like to see Bill Sienkiewicz inking other artists because he brings his own distinct flavor to what these other guys are doing. And what he's doing in this issue ranges from something that can be extremely detailed to something that feels very light and airy and sketchy in parts. And I think it's really interesting to look at.
So have you read the original run of Static?
No.
You should read it because
it's them.
It's John Paul Leon and Bill Sienkiewicz. Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to check that out.
That's why I was surprised. I was like, wait, he inked a lot of John Paul Leon art.
Yeah, I just think they're a good combo.
They are a great combo. Rest in peace, John Paul Leon.
Yeah. So this issue has two competing storylines for the most part. The issue is called Some Angels Falling, and that takes on two meanings because we're going to follow Warren Worthington leading a group of flying mutants to a Shi'ar spaceship.
Hold on, but that's not the angel that's being referred to in this. You're talking about Angel Salvador, who makes a point. It's like, yeah, he calls himself Angel. My name's Angel. Friggin', I don't know why he's doing like this. That's weird. And Beak's like, well, it's Archangel. It's a different thing.
Yes.
Like, shut up, nerd.
And then we're also following kind of the origins of the Scemma affair. So that's sort of the other side of it.
I hate that word so much, and I'm upset that you suffered my ears to hearing it.
It's on the spreadsheet. Just take a look. It's right in front of you.
And that's weird how I didn't write it on the spreadsheet, Adam. It's wild how I didn't do that.
I would have written Scott and Emma, but I like things to fit inside the little Excel cell. So
My man, when I tell you that I can stretch out cells with 2 clicks,
I know.
I could have done it. It would have been fine. But no, to your point, this is during the Morrison run where there's a handful of issues that are kind of one-offs right after the Phantom X stuff. So it starts with Darkstar's funeral. Is anyone but Steve Morris upset about Darkstar's funeral?
Well, it's funny because Emma very loudly proclaims that she has no idea who this is. But you know, they go to the funeral. That's nice.
Emma truly is the voice of Grant Morrison.
But this involves Scott and Logan having to fly together. And as this is happening, Scott is reaching out to Emma for, I guess, marriage counseling. Not a great idea, Scott.
So, if you remember the annual that preceded some of this stuff,
yes,
where they meet Zorn,
yep,
Emma makes the offer of it.
Mm-hmm.
Scott takes her up on it, and that's a bad idea, Scott.
Very bad idea, Scott.
My man, listen, don't do that. It's listen, you and Gene need to work that out. And I'm not saying don't go to therapy. I am saying don't screw your therapist, is what I'm saying, Scott. That honestly, your therapist shouldn't allow that to happen either. Emma's got some blood on her hands here too. But
I mean, she is absolutely seducing him.
She's intentionally ruining. She is. I mean, God forbid women have hobbies, but she is intentionally ruining his marriage.
Oh yeah,
for fun,
big time. And it's really kind of a funny sight gag too, because Cyclops in his brain is parachuting out of the X-Jet all the way down into a room filled with pillows, and at some point Cyclops is still piloting the jet and makes like a sound effect, and Wolverine's like, should I take over? What's going on here?
Scott, bud, what are you doing over there?
Yeah, what's going on?
They're going through it. And it sets that up, but it's an interesting and fun dynamic, and I like that. So there's a lot of talk in fan circles that I refuse to go in anymore about how writers hate to have happy marriages and all this stuff. And I'm not saying that you can't write a good story about marriage. I just have finally come down on the side of it's just not super conductive relationship to tell stories about punch 'em ups. That's all. And yearning and all of that superhero comics are built on. But I give Morrison a lot of credit for making it like a mature adult relationship. Like Gene and Scott go through a rough patch and don't know how to deal with it because Scott won't talk to his wife about how he was possessed by Apocalypse for a little bit.
Yeah.
And he's like, are we just together because we've been together since we were teenagers? Or like, what's going on? Like, it's a lot of more complex emotions going into this than you would normally get in a superhero comic, which makes it so much more palatable than Scott walking out on his wife and child in Alaska.
Oh, I mean, it's night and day, and these do feel like very adult emotions that these characters are having and are going through, and how, when Scott does at the end of this issue say, all right, he's now looking at Emma thinking that she is Jean, he's like, I will play along. And, obviously this is going to open him up to where things go from here, but all of it makes sense for these characters. Now, the other half of this, what's funny about this is we're talking about these very adult emotions. The other half of this story is all about teenage emotions or young.
It's like a juxtaposition. Emotions, right? It's like when Grant Morrison went through to write this, they thought about how can I can't do a Scottish accent, so I'm not going to.
Don't try.
How can I? Nope, that's more like what am I going?
You're going to end up sounding like Shrek. Just be careful.
Donkey! I would pay money to hear Grant Morrison talk about donkey. Get out of my swamp, donkey!
Oh my god.
Okay, so Grant Morrison sounds like Shrek. We've got this.
Yes.
So, what was I? I don't.
You were talking
Grant
about
Morrison thought about this. Like,
Yes.
yes, this was intentional. They knew what they were doing. And they also gave us Beak, who is such a good boy.
poor Beak.
I love Beak. Beak is like, oh, I can't do this. I'm just a weird chicken man. And also, I'm not gonna drink or smoke or anything. I'm straight edge to the end.
Oh, I love
And
that.
I'm like, listen, I think it's very funny. I also like I went to more than 4 hardcore shows while I was in high school.
hmm
And even in high school, as the kid who went to the religious Christian school, I was like, straight edge kids, they're kind of weird, right? I didn't do drugs or drink when I was in high school or anything like that. I was like, straight edge people, you're kind of weird. Put some X on your hands. Fine, go to town, I guess. You do you, but couldn't be me.
Oh man. But what's great about this is, Beak obviously can't fly. So he's not going to be able to fly up to this spaceship. And he
To
basically
do this rescue mission for the Shi'ar
Yeah.
after what Cassandra Nova did to them.
Yeah. So he takes off, basically falls off a cliff. And Angel, not Warren Worthington, the other
Angel Salvador.
is the one that not only saves him, but kisses him and then flies him up to the spaceship. Now, Beak is having like a transcendent moment. Like he is like, this is the greatest day of my entire life. Meanwhile, behind his back, Angel is collecting money from everybody that paid her to kiss Beak on a dare.
Because Angel Salvador is like,
Hustlin'.
she is a trash girl.
Mhm.
And I think there are some unfortunate racial implications with combining with her being a Hispanic girl, but also like that person exists in the real world. We all know there was someone in high school who would do anything and didn't care.
Oh, it's
And it was
very funny. Like
It's funny
very
and
funny.
realistic. And it's like, okay. And it's especially because their relationship does actually blossom into something like where they do have feeling for each other.
Yeah.
It's a great start to this. It continues to emphasize that Beak is the best and we all love him. And that he's this little nerd.
Chicken
which
boy. Little chicken
It
boy.
turns out the scrawny little nerd boy who doesn't think a girl will ever kiss him resonated with X-Men readers. I wonder why.
Yeah. Yeah, he's pretty great. And I love the way that he is drawn by
John Paul Leon.
Like he really
So
gets
good.
the character, he gets the punk aspect of it. He gets the chicken part of it. And it's fun. It's really great. So I think it's a great contrast in tones and a great contrast in sort of the kinds of relationship storytelling here. And I enjoy it very much.
Are you telling me that Grant Morrison's X-Men's pretty good?
I am very much. I don't know where
It's
to
not
put
better than
this.
Murder at the Mansion at 167.
No, but I still think this could be top 200. Oh no, it's not better than Assault on Weapon Plus though, is it? At 198, or is it?
I
mean,
I think that as a single issue, it is more cohesive than Assault on Weapon Plus, which is a little bit messy.
it's got better character work than that for sure. I would say I would put it under Age of X at 193 and above the Leprechauns of Cassidy Keep at 194.
Yeah, okay. I'm fine with that.
You like that?
I'm good with that. I like that. I like that a lot.
All
I
right.
think Age of X is probably better than this. You're
Yeah.
right.
I just
You're
think there's
right.
more going on there. But hey, 3 relatively good performers this week.
I mean, one of them was in the 600s, but
I understand. But on even that, like on our list of 930 stories, that's not bad.
I mean,
And then 2 stories in the top 200. Hey,
the second part of that, great. The first part of that, listen, number 500 on the list currently is Nightcrawler Volume 4, the Chris Claremont Nightcrawler, which I don't think you and I would recommend that anyone like go out of their way to read.
it's not,
But if you read
it's
it-
fun.
If you are a Nightcrawler enthusiast, you will have a good time. Fun fact, my son the other week,
Mhm.
he's 8 years old, and he described Nightcrawler as my second favorite X-Man.
Your second or his.
Mine.
Okay. Mhm.
He's right, which is the funniest thing about it. That he was like, "Oh yeah, that's Dad's number 2." I don't give him a ranked list of all of my favorite X-Men characters.
Maybe he's been hitting up the Xavier Files archives there, buddy. Who knows?
Jeez, no one should read those. I refuse to look back at them. I bet I made some valid points, but was also figuring out how to write for the first time. And want me to tell you the worst part about that? Here's the worst part. I hadn't actually read all that much X-Men when I started those.
That's okay. Listen, no judgment.
I hadn't read most of the 90s, a good chunk of the 2000s.
Zach, we are all older and wiser now, so it doesn't matter.
I don't know if reading all of 90s X-Men made me wiser, Adam. I think that's a bold statement.
I was saying in general. I don't know if that...
In general.
Yeah.
In general.
We're not adding brain cells by reading 90s X-Men. But we are thankful to our Patreon patron.
Yeah, I'm thankful for all of the Tales from the Mooseverse that let us talk about these fun things. It was a good one. Sometimes it is just about the vibes. And hey, want me to tell you about these stories without villains? Do you know why all of these kind of sort of work? It's because they're just one issue. If you try and stretch this out too much, it will get boring because that's not what these comics are.
Yeah.
If you want that, there's this thing called literary fiction, and I bet you're going to love it. It's so much better than people...
You want like books.
If you just want people talking about their feelings and their divorce, may I introduce you to most books.
There we go. There's the canon right there.
But I just read a book about this guy who gets out of a bad relationship and then walks from New York to Arizona, and it doesn't really describe any of that part. It just starts where, I got to Arizona, and then I have some neighbors. I wonder what they're up to. I guess I'll be friends with them.
Wow.
That's the whole book. It was called Dinosaurs. It was great.
I like the name.
Really enjoyed it.
Any dinosaurs in the book?
Birds.
Okay.
No, there's like they used to be dinosaurs, and it was one of the vignettes that they were telling in that.
All right, I'm on board.
And birds were a whole motif through the whole thing.
Nice.
Again, I'm just saying, there is not a lack in the world of stories that are just like chill vibe stuff. It's just a lack of stories that are chill vibes talking about your feeling stuff while also featuring Disney's IP with the capes and the tights and the super lasers.
Yes.
That's the disconnect.
Speaking of which, I did want to hype a really fun article that came out on Comics XF this past week, which involved our editor-in-chief, Dan Grote, and our buddy Tony going to different Disney World theme parks looking for comics. That's a fun one. So if folks missed that was a good one.
Did I say on the air? Have I told my...
Yes, about you buying omnibuses at Universal.
It wasn't omnibuses; they were the essential.
I'm sorry, essential. Still phone book size comics.
I have, and I still have them over here. 1 through 3 of the Essential X-Men, and one of Uncanny Essential X-Men.
Amazing choice.
All of these to be drugged through. Hey, those are some pretty good comics, and also the ones that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby did.
I will not spoil the article, but I will suffice to say they do not find those particular volumes.
Well, yeah, because that was at Universal Studios.
No. Dan goes to Universal too in the article, so definitely check it out.
They still have the Kubert art up there.
Yeah,
Kubert
art is everywhere. It's great.
Love that.
Yeah. Folks, you can always follow me on social, Adam Reck on Blue Sky Instagram, Arthur Stacy on Twitter, and Zach, what are we doing next week?
Hey, did you know there's an X-Men movie coming out?
There is an X-Men movie coming out. I've heard.
Did we forget about that until last week?
No. I mean, it's been on every single ad break. It's on the Coke machines at the movies, the Heineken ads. I mean, it's everywhere.
My man, I'm going to be very real.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that it was coming out.
Okay.
And then I was like, we should put it on. We should do something. So we're doing a Deadpool and Wolverine episode. So everyone's favorite 2 X-Men characters. I know that everyone who loves X-Men podcasts loves Deadpool and Wolverine.
I mean, sure. Why not?
Let's don't. They'd rather we talk about Sienna Blaze for an hour. But until then, folks... Hold on, wait. Is Sienna Blaze going to be in that movie? Because I don't know. Sienna Blaze is in it.
We know Cassandra Nova's in it.
I
Listeners, you should see my co-host's face right now.
All I'm saying is I just got done talking about how much I like Grant Morrison's X-Men. And I
know you don't trust it. It's okay.
Heck, I got a page from X-Men 92 over there where it seems like they're stealing 100% of Cassandra Nova from a Chris Sims comic, which is weird.
It's great.
It does seem that way, right?
Kind of, yeah.
It's just, I saw a video of Tyler Maine's Sabretooth, and I was like, I was 9 years old. I am the nostalgia audience for this. Why do I feel nothing? This is what you have done to me. This is what you have done.
Oh, Zach,
I should be the one that cares.
These sound like feelings that we're going to have to work out on our next episode.
Nah, we'll just talk about like chimichangas or whatever. But until then, folks, this has been Battle of the Atom. We hope you survived the experience.
Get it!